I'm delighted to introduce our speaker for today, Nicola Scaranaro. Nicola graduated from Venice University in 2005 and joined Foster & Partners in that same year, initially working on the award-winning Jameson House Tower in Vancouver. He has designed buildings in 15 different countries and has won several prestigious design competitions. His approach, sensitive to location and culture, harnesses the skills, enthusiasm, and knowledge of integrated design teams, clients, and communities to create inspirational environments. And with that, I'll hand over the mic to you, Nicola. Take it away.
Well, thank you so much, Paul, and also thanks to Hannah for inviting me. It's a fantastic pleasure, a great pleasure, and an honor to present our work, the work of the practice, to the audience of the Architecture Future Fest 2024. The introduction was wonderful and very flattering. So we'll say that I've been very since I started working at Foster & Partners 20 years ago, because I've been working with great colleagues, and the work I'm showing, I think it's very important to say, it's a combination, is a teamwork done by colleagues, consultants, and also wonderful clients. Through my experience at Foster & Partners, I work in a wide range of building typologies and also urban design. But first of all, I would like to introduce you a little bit to the practice. You may know a little bit about it. Foster & Partners is a studio of architecture, engineering, urbanism, and industrial design, which was founded in 1967 by Norman Foster. Since then, the practice has been working on a wide range of projects, some of them illustrated in this small diagram here. The common thread, I will say, is that we always look for innovation, and also we always look how we can push the concept of sustainability in our project. Our headquarters based in London. It's a very exciting campus. I usually call it a university almost. We have modern making facilities, material research center, design studios, all sort of working together under one roof. And that's one of the key principles of the practice, the idea of having under one roof many different disciplines, because we think the best design comes from sort of integrating design. That's pretty much the core, I would say, of what we do. So within our offices, we've got many specialist teams, in addition to the architectural studios, that help us and support us in our daily work. It's incredible, I think, in some of the project work that, the ideas for the project might come from so many different directions and so many different conversations. Sometimes I would say the best conversation seems to be happening around the cafeteria with a coffee or a tea. We have within our sort of studios and within our campus architects. We have, as I said before, a material research center with material scientists, modern making facilities, and all of this is accessible to all the architects, which I think is very interesting. This is a picture of a small event we had in the office. Is sort of capturing our team all coming together. And when you look at that, it's quite stunning to see, the proportion between architects, anthropologists, engineer, sustainability specialists. As I said, all sort of working together with a sort of a common goal. Looking at the practice, just to give you a sense of the scale of the practice, as I said, our headquarters in London, but we have, 16 offices across the globe, going from New York, Los Angeles, San Francisco, or Shanghai, Madrid, and as I said, London, where I'm based today for giving this lecture. We speak 68 languages, hopefully not all at the same time. And as I said, London is the headquarters with 1,700 people, while the overseas are sort of almost like 300, 350. The average age is 36. And I would say that sort of the mix between sort of also male and female is pretty equal, which I think is really good in terms of, also the way we work. Through the sort of story of the practice, we've been working in over 500 projects. And at the moment, we have, in the last year, couple of years, we completed quite a few of these, including the Lusail Stadium. You've probably seen that in the World Cup final. It's the beautiful Apple Marina Bay Sands in Singapore, the Apple stores, and also Siononbu in Madrid. So a wide range of projects in a wide range of countries as well. But we have a lot of projects under construction. One in New York, which is very close to my heart, which which is the 270 Park Avenue, Toronto, where we have the one. And just to pick a few, we got sort of Slauson master plan in Stockholm, and the Kuwait airport, which is looking stunning now under construction when the structure has been completed. Today, I want to focus on two projects to also have the opportunity to go quite into detail the project. I like to show you images of the completed project, but also some images and studies and sketches that we've done throughout the process, just to give you the sense of sort of the energy and the way sort of we work. I picked these two projects, one under construction, one recently completed, because I think they focus on three questions that I posed to myself for speaking to you today. First of all, how the sort of cultural, environmental context of the building affect actually our design process, how we try to create a sense of place, how our building, our intervention as architects can create a renewed sense of place or can fit within an existing context, and ultimately, therefore, how sort of the project respond to their location. So the first project is a project which is under construction. We started that as a competition. The project was a competition in 2020 that as I said, currently is under construction. It's called Marina Tower. It's a project in Athens. Athens, which is an incredibly stunning city. The project sits a little bit on the outskirts of the center of Athens, which is on the left-hand side of this image, and it's part of a wider master plan called the Lincoln Master Plan that we designed almost 8 years ago. The master plan is very exciting because you probably recognize this horizontal line going through the image. That used to be the main sort of runway of the old airport of Athens. This also used to be the site of the Olympics of Athens, and both the site of the airport and the site of the Olympics were in use for a long period of time. Through this project, we managed to almost, as you can see from the visual as well, stitch together different neighborhoods to create some character areas next to each of them. Also create what is going to be the largest coastal park in the world, and this is sort of really the heart of the development for us. Across these different neighborhoods, there's going to be a series of different topology residential units, commercial, and in the foreground, as you can see, there's an existing marina. Next to this existing marina, right at the center, you recognize our project, which is a sort of a residential tower located next to the beach. Now, the idea of having a several high-rise building within Athens, which is mostly low-rise, has an incredible value for the project to allow us exactly what you see here. It means have a higher density, more efficient transport, and therefore more area for the public, both on the beach side and in the sort of the park you see in the inside. So as we approach the project, what was our vision? Well, we really wanted to be inspired by sort of the connection between sort of the land and the sea in this incredible location, which is very close to the mountain of Athens, just in front of Aegina Island. And also we wanted to be inspired by the Mediterranean color, the quality of light, that generated very strong shadows and beautiful hues during the day. But also we want to do something which is in a contemporary way, we wanted to reinterpret the heritage of the city. One other thing we wanted to do, we wanted to bring, because of the connection to the marina and to the sea and sort of the view of the island in the distance, create something which also almost brought island living style to the city. So the approach for us was, first of all, to create an efficient floor plate, something that will create optimal sort of views and also daylight. So we rotated this massing in respect to the master plan, and then started sculpting the floor plate to create something which a building we call a breathing building, a building that could sort of open to the outside, but also have a dual aspect for sort of every and each apartment within the tower. Most importantly, because this great master plan of the tower is part of, we wanted to create something which became the embodiment of the key principle of the master plan. And the master plan is the idea of creating a green park, a green spine, something which really sort of promote the sort of idea of wellness and the idea also biophilia, and also the principle of value principle of sustainability I'm going to sort of run you through. And this was one of the images we developed for the detailed design of the project. As you can see, this idea of creating a spine running through the building really sort of translated into creating almost a cluster of towers sort of connected together by these bridges. And these bridges, for the people who have been in Athens and know, the way of living of Athenians, it's incredible because really sort of, blurs the boundaries between what is considered inside and outside. And so along this building, we created a series of sequences of terraces, which almost become some outdoor living areas, which are used during the summer. For us, was very important then developing a building. We created something that again sort of responded to a few key parameters. First of all, we wanted to this being sort of a quite tall tower, we're talking about in the range of 200 meters from sea level. We wanted to create something that mitigated the wind. And so, as you can see, sort of all the design of the balconies with the balustrade done in a mix of glazing and railings is designed specifically for that, sort of take off the energy of the wind and make sure sort of we capture the breeze which is very important to create a climate which is sort of cool and pleasant. And as I see here, sort of we say that we can create a positive microclimate. So we did a lot of studies with our engineering in-house, team in-house, to understand what can we do in terms of creating a pleasant experience, right? How can we create spaces, which outdoor spaces, and are pleasant? So again, the solution was to look at the vernacular architecture and learning that having a mix of vegetation, a shaded place, the presence of water, also understanding and learning the position of the breeze that was coming towards the tower, and make the most also of the the height of this building to create a sort of a low speed wind effect. We can reduce sort of the perceived temperature. Now, I can notice just now in this slide that we say between 3 and 5 degrees. Actually, we know, having done more studies, that in the heat of the summer, we can almost reduce the perceived temperature inside the spine by 8 to 10 degrees. So pretty incredible if you think, that outside may be 35 degrees, but, when you are on this space, you may feel, that is absolutely pleasant. The idea was also, to bring some green element. You can see sort of the green walls running through the spine, and we like biodiversity. So we thought that this could be sort of something interesting in terms of the planting that we use, something which comes from, plant grown in local nursery with local vegetation that we sort of can stimulate and create something that we favor the presence of biodiversity. And it's very important also noise. We're Athens, a very busy city, so the idea of creating these overhanging balconies that provide shade, and also the material we use were all designed to sort of create something that sort of reduce the noise coming from the city itself. And then, if you look sort of the tower, as I said, it almost look like it's a standalone tower. So there's no other high-rise building next to it. And so there was a desire for us to create something which looked like a cluster of tower coming together. And you can see sort of what is quite interesting for us was the idea to create an opening between sort of these two elements, where you just saw these sort of hanging, floating terraces, which we can see the sky through it. And we thought that quite interesting also in terms of the aspect. This sort of organic aspect also was designed, as I said before, to manage the sort of the reduce the wind speed and actually capture the breeze where we need it. And then in terms of the overall strategy, we also wanted to have something which, reduced the consumption. And so we wanted to have a low embodied carbon, and also wanted to reduce sort of the overall sort of water demand, which is critical in Athens. Something very important as well, you wanted to have it 100% natural ventilated building. So you can, these are for us some aspect in design that merge with some ideas that come from the principle of biophilia, which we think will really sort of promote the well-being of the people who live in this building. This being, as I said before, as a competition was done in lockdown during COVID, something which we almost forgot now. So there was a very sort of I can say there was very sort of strong focus for us to sort of promote sort of healthy residential living. And then also we talk about sort of engineering, and we wanted to use both active and passive design to make sure that the performance of the building, were in terms of sustainability as performing as possible, really. And then, the process for us was a process of, looking at different articulation of the floor plates, position of the cores, that ended up, from say I would say the most efficient units per core shown in the upper left-hand corner to our final layout and footprint of the building, where it provided both privacy for the terraces, dual aspect apartment, and also we thought quite interesting in terms of vertical transportation. Interesting because this building has got is behaving like one building in terms of fire escape, something quite important for a rise building, providing a high level of redundancies, so the two cores are connected. But then in terms of vertical transportation and experience of the people to access in the building, they are almost two independent buildings. Structurally, this idea we thought was very interesting. So Athens is highly seismic. And so we wanted to create something, in terms of the footprint of the building, design, the structure, that reduces the carbon. Reduces the carbon footprint, the concrete carbon footprint. And this idea of really maximizing the structural footprint, as you can see here, with those connecting elements, really pushed, for us, the idea of being able to reduce the carbon footprint of the project. And then, as I said before, we did many studies, both in terms of the desktop studies, in terms of fluid dynamics, and also with the wind tunnel test, to really tests, that actually they not only the wind load for the structure of the building, but also the comfort level at the different floors of the building. And as I said before, Athens is quite lucky because it's a coastal city which doesn't have high humidity. So capturing, the wind and the breeze was something that, we realized very soon in our analysis would have been something positive for the comfort. And then obviously, because of the position of the building, which almost has 180 degrees across the coastal front of the city, and then also towards the mountain, towards the Acropolis at the back, the idea was to maximize from the different room of the apartment, the living room of the apartment, the views across the city itself. And here are some early images we did using the real drone footages, and you can see here how incredible the city of Athens is. Where one side you got the turquoise color of the Mediterranean Sea, on the other side you got this very dark color of the mountains, the rock of the mountains, with the city of Athens, which is consistently white, almost organically growing on the mountain itself. And then just next to our project is a beautiful marina, and we thought, obviously we also wanted to create a visual connection with the marina itself. And then it's important that when we think of our building, we don't think just the building on day one, but we think how our building could adapt, to different needs in the future. And so what we said, it was very important for us to create something which was flexible in construction. And so even was a possibility to change the unit, combine the unit. What we think about is the idea of, create something which, will adapt all courses of life. Something that could be the different apartment could be adapted for senior living as well. And so for us, flexibility in the a unit mix and design was something incredibly important. And also, what we thought was very important is not to create a series of stack of units which were all the same, but to mix. So we want to have larger family units of 4-bedroom, mix 1-bedroom, 2 bedrooms, or larger units which take the full floor as well of the apartment, by creating a very interesting stacking mix. As you can see here, the idea was or as we design through, but also as the market reaction to our design, we're able to adjust the building, in different ways in terms of creating an interesting mix. And then if you go to the typical plan of the floor plan, here it is. So as I said before, you can see 2 sets of stairs which are connected with bridges, linking the cores. Those bridges also work as a linking beams, that help connect the two cores structurally. You can see the shear walls extending to create a very solid footprint. We can resist the seismic loads for the building itself, and then a two separate core in terms of lifting and goods lift, serving sort of each sort of half of the floor plate. And as I said before, this is a floor plate where you can see a mix of 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom, and 2-bedroom units, but some of these units themselves are entire half floors or even full floors, which are quite exciting. And one of the key, as I said, design principle, it was to create sort of something that could blur the experience of being from an inside of the building to the outside. And so all windows, the building is very solid because it's very important to the performance of the envelope. But sort of towards the views of the sea and the mountains, we created these beautiful triple sliding doors, which completely open the summer to sort of blur the inside and the outside, and ensure that actually natural ventilation is maximized throughout. And then this is a view looking backward for sort of the central spaces floating in the center of the building. And you can see, was the idea again to create a very strong connection with these plunge pools to the Mediterranean Sea beyond. And then again, sort of a few images looking at the building. I can see there's always the idea of framing different views across the coastal views or views towards the island in every single sort of space that of the apartment itself, the bedroom. And then we call it a place immersed in nature because, the building sits within sort of these wonderful master plans, very close to the beach. And what we wanted to do here, we wanted to sort of raise reduce the excavation of the building, raise sort of the car parking level to ground level, and this gave an opportunity to really have the level of the lobby plus 10 meters above the sea level, which we thought was a great idea to sort of bring us this idea of creating sort of an opening, a spine in the center of the building, all the way to the arrival experience for the residents and for the guests alike. As you can see here, you are elevated, so you got a view sort of towards directly towards the sea, and to the left and right, you got the lobby dedicated to sort of your portion of the tower. And also on this floor, we created a series of amenity, sort of resident lounges, gyms, and sort of small business centers and sort of a swimming pool area. In terms of the materiality, the colors, we wanted to use the local materials and keep this sort of local feeling. This is sort of the entrance lobby. This, as you can see, is the resident lounge. Again, as you get very strong connection to the outside and to the landscape space that we've got all around the tower. And as I said, this is in construction, so it is due to be completed in 2026, so quite soon. This is an image which was taken a month ago on site, and you can see sort of the building at the moment is almost reached the 8th floor. It's quite interesting. I don't know if I always, despite having worked on this project for many years, every time I look at pictures or go on site, is the proximity to the sea. Really sort of feel close. And sometimes you see just boats passing by the building, which is like really sort of phenomenal. The next project is completely, as I said, we wanted to explore the idea of how the local culture and environment shape our building. And I hope that, this building in Athens did that. As you can see, we really looked into the idea and understanding how Athenians live, understanding the environment, the local vernacular architecture, to create something really sort of create, I would say, a quintessential sort of Athenians living, hopefully. This project is located in a different part of the world. It's in Europe, in Budapest. More campus. This is a project which has been recently completed. When we first approached, there was another competition, another design competition. And when we first were approached by MOL, we thought it was very interesting, the brief of the competition. MOL is a petrol company based in Budapest, which got a great vision for 2030, which is really sort of invest in sort of sustainable technology. And to be able to sort of change sort of the business to sort of invest heavily in this new business, they wanted to create an office which sort of brought creativity and innovation together. And so they wanted an office which changed sort of the culture of working that they had. And this is the site. Budapest is a very exciting city, a very beautiful city, and in front of you can see the Danube with a little inlet. And the position of our site sits right next to a big transport hub, very close to this natural inlet on the Danube. Now, when we first visited the headquarters, that's what we found. I know if many of you are familiar with a paternoster lift. As the first time I saw it, it's a continuous lift, almost like a platform, which goes around as a conveyor belt. That's very fascinated me. One of the few left. But the building itself, apart from that fascination, what we found was most of the work was done, sort of incredible work that we're doing was done behind closed doors. And so we thought, in a way, like I described the way we work in this office, where we collaborate and sort of with different disciplines. We wanted to bring that sort of attitude to sort of collaborative work and innovation also to the new headquarters. Another thing which for us was very important is that we realized that at the moment the company was, the different department was sort of divided across many sites in the city. And so this was a great opportunity to bring all this discipline, all this expertise on one site, under one building, under one roof, all working together. And this was the master plan which was created and approved for the site so before it was given to us as sort of a starting point for the competition massing. And what we thought by looking at the site is that it was very interesting, first of all, because if you think about this having such a sort of density in sort of the specific part of Budapest, is very positive because there's a lot of good transport connectivity, and therefore is an opportunity when you think about it really to reduce sort of the carbon footprint of of the employee here by simply sort of placing the building very close to the transport hub. That though has some issues as well. Being close to a big transport hub brought some noise, the road connecting. So we wanted to create something in terms of orientation of the building, which almost created a screen, a barrier towards sort of the more noisy street and open up toward the city and then towards sort of the river itself. The other thing we wanted to explore as this idea of sort of creating a collaborative working. Yes, as I said before, I personally feel that most of the most interesting sort of conversation you have with your colleagues might happen not exactly at your desk or in a meeting, but might happen in different spaces, across the campus. And so what we want to bring here was a range of different amenities. Of course, from a generous lobby to the entrance, representing the company, collaboration spaces, gardens, a beautiful terrace on the Danube. We thought it would be interesting. Restaurant, food and beverage places, a gym and a library and a town hall. So all these places could cater for different events and bring together the community and sort of have give the opportunity to create a shared ethos. What is also for us very interesting in creating this is like we think is very important. People are very different, and people are more introvert. Some people are more extrovert. People have got different needs. So provide a range of choices for people to work. Some tasks might require to be very focused, and if you are a programmer, software designer, you might have to long stretch of time where you need to focus in silence. Other tasks like architecture sometimes is actually could be quite loud and quite require bigger groups in terms of discussion. So provide for different spaces for different tasks, but also for different type of personalities. We thought it was something quite important. And you can see we started stacking these spaces, this diagram, and created something which deviated from the massing or the consented master plan to create something which we felt should be more fluid between the different spaces. And so our sort of initial sort of thought process was, okay, we have office and amenities we need to provide, and let's sort of merge them together. And the idea was also to sort of take the core that typically sits in the center of the building and sort of push it to the west. This has two benefits. One, it gives for a more visually open floor plate. And secondly, also sort of screen the western sun, which so for office building is considered rather unpleasant. And then the idea was like, we didn't want to have two buildings. We want to have one building coming together with this element. And then also we thought, this could become something inspired by the city landmarks. If you are familiar with Budapest, the catenary roofs, the hills in Buda, all have this sort of organic, the inlet itself where our building is situated, have got this nice organic language. And finally, we want to create a sort of a vertical campus. So even if you sit in with your team in different floors, we want to create a visual connectivity across the full campus, and therefore we create this sort of central sort of winter gardens and this sort of atrium which sort of connects sort of the different floor plate up until the end, sort of the top of the building, where we wanted to create a public space accessible to all. And then another thing which was key for us is to use these spaces, these sort of winter gardens, to sort of really, again, boost in the mid-season the daylight and also the ventilation. And this is one of the early images we created. As you can see, sort of the idea, as I described before, almost taking the language of this beautiful inlet in the Danube and transform it into sort of vertical expression of this building. And then having sort of this green series of spaces that come to the terrace at the very top, which is open to the elements. And looking at sort of distribution of the spaces, and you have more typical floor plate, approximately 1,200 square meters, which sit in the tower, to something which is like quite a unique sort of working space, which is in the low-rise portion on the podium, let's say, of the building, with this big atrium coming through. And then, looking at some of the plans, just to give you a sense, you can see sort of the dimension of the atrium in relationship to the floor plate, and the idea of creating sort of the darker spaces of the floor plate, places like the town hall, the event spaces, put some of the meeting rooms towards the north, where we got sort of the noisy road, and put sort of the canteen and the open places toward the south, with a great view of the river and also with better daylight. And daylight is important, obviously, especially in this part of the world. And so, great care was taken, in terms of designing this floor plate, in terms of the size, the proportion, the location, the facility, that really sort of maximized the access to daylight. And at the same time, reduce to the minimum so the risk of glare, which is something that office the design office sort of seems to suffer quite a bit. Some images, again, early images of the space. This is, you can see sort of the big atrium opening, and hopefully this image communicated from the very beginning the idea of actually we want, if we are sitting in a floor plate which is sort of in the low-rise portion of the building, we still want to have a visual connectivity to the rest of the tower, which you can see is through the skylight. But also, we wanted to create this incredible sort of visual connectivity on the left-hand side, also towards sort of the inlet of the Danube, the little beach which is in front of that, which became, since we started the project, incredibly popular with small kiosks and places where people go to eat, and also people go to sort of have to swim and jog during their lunchtime, which I think is very important, really, sort of trying to promote access to nature, but also for people to have an active lifestyle. Other images from a sort of early stage of design, looking up to the tower towards the observation deck and the terrace at the top. And again, if you look at this, something quite interesting for us, as I said, was the idea of offset the core and split, do a sort of offset split core, because our structural engineers were very happy with this design, because it gave a lot of stiffness and created a good center of the mass. As architects, we were very happy because you have a sort of look at the image, so east and west visual connectivity across the full floor plate. Obviously, you also maximize the potential of flexibility, because you have a large area at the center of the floor plate where you can sort of design to cater for sort of different needs of the different departments. This was sort of the first model we did. As you can see, sort of the horizontal expression, which is sort of for us required to mitigate sort of the solar insolation in the summer, and then sort of the expression of these two cores on the western side, as you can see, sort of split arrangement. The floor plan of the tower, some idea of test fit studies, just to to prove the different sitting arrangement. And then here again, I talked before about the concept biophilia. So we know, there's a lot of data we have in terms of how provide an office place with good daylight, good air quality, can having access to sort of organic design with the presence of vegetation can really boost the productivity. How do we measure boosting productivity in the workplace? Well, it can be measured by innovation. It can be measured by also understanding sleep pattern of people. People who tend to sleep better, more rested, and take less sick days. And we understand, so if we design a workplace with this in mind, then we can really sort of create a place which people connect with and pleasant, and promote sort of the wellness of of your company. And then on the other side, also we want to do something. Open spaces are wonderful. We like them, but at the same time, as I said, some people might be distracted by the noises like being created, and we know that this is not something positive because it creates a drop in performance, in distractions, and therefore, or still within this floor plan, we create some special areas where people can have a more I can say, quiet sort of experience and quiet tasks. And this is some early views of the viewing deck on top of the building, when you can sort of have a great view across the river to the beautiful city of Budapest. And here, as the project, once it was completed, as you can see, we like the idea that it almost looked like one of our renderings I showed you before. The process was not as simple as that. Of course, it took the work of great engineer, fantastic also local architects we work with, and very open-minded clients to really sort of create something which was optimized in terms of the design, in relationship of trying to maintain this sort of the spirit of this organic design, but do that in an efficient way. And so a lot of study was done together with our specialist here, FMP, to sort of understand how we could realize this building with a minimum amount of curvatures and still sort of preserve the design intent we showed you before. A few images of our studies showing sort of almost one of the most critical elements, the connection between the podium and the building, almost a bridge connection between the two. And the panelization study, which was done through some software analysis, again, by our team, where we sort of managed to reduce through this process, the amount of panels from pretty much every single panel being a triple curvature panel to only 18, sort of to the end of sort of the detailed design. And some images of the construction process, incredible construction process. This is the connection between sort of the tower and the podium. And this is how it looks once the building was completed. Other images, again, sort of almost taking the same camera viewpoint we showed you before. And then in terms of sustainability, this is a project which is achieve LEED Platinum and also BREEAM Excellent. And this through sort of the use of different low carbon technologies like geothermal boreholes, because of proximity of the river was very efficient, having sort of a centralized cooling plant, and use, because of sort of the expression of this core we looked at before, one of the images, use that as an opportunity to sort of getting some free cooling through our cooling towers top of the building. And as I said, this is like a process of great patience and great collaboration. So you can see from some of the BIM model from our mechanical engineers. Some image of the site, where sort of in the boreholes were sort of first installed, and as you can see, the ground source heat pump. And then also we looked at the potential of using renewable energy through photovoltaic panels, which we thought, achieve a, very interesting integration, as you can see from sort of this roof plan, where sort of I believe was quite successful in terms of, again, doing something which was very respectful of the overall design of the building, especially because this podium is almost a fifth elevation for the project. And as I said before, the top of the core serve as the location for our BMUs and also for our cooling towers. But most importantly, this is a terrace which is open to the public. People can access and to have incredible views on the city. And then in terms of design of the building, it's something which you saw in all our images was the idea of sort of creating a bespoke system, which was a radiant ceiling system. We like it because maximize the floor to ceiling height, create a very good indoor air quality and comfort, and also was low energy. And we kind of liked it at sort of this almost industrial looking design. So if you are sitting looking straight up at the ceiling, you will see through all the ducts and the structure of the building. But then when you sort of have long view of the building, sort of gives sort of a quite coherent, consistent image. And then these little pipes of water obviously are used for the sort of radiant heating itself. And again, looking back at one of the renderings I showed before, this is the exact image taken after completion of the project. And sort of looking up at the tower, very important for us to maintain this sort of visual connectivity. And also, connectivity as you sort of travel through the building with these helical stairs, between the different floors and between sort of the interior of the building itself and the outdoor. And finally, sort of the viewing deck opening day, where people finally had to access. And is very interesting. So I want to show you a video in a second of post-occupancy of the building. So how people finally occupy the building and, how they experience the building with different spaces we created. What is so interesting is that you never know how people use your building. For example, we just found recently, as we were preparing this presentation for today, that there's an incredible heavy metal. If you're into heavy metal, there's a very nice video from a group called Tangsapta. I'm sure I'm not pronouncing that correctly, which is being shot in on top of the atrium of our building. So I suffer from vertigo, so I give you a warning in case you also suffer. Paul, if that's possible to sort of run the video, I think that would be sort of a nice conclusion of sort of this presentation. There's a video, as I said, taken a couple of months after finally all the employee of MOL has sort of entered the building.
Absolutely. I'll share it now. Absolutely fantastic. Thanks so much. Thanks so much, Nicola. I am familiar with that film studio you worked with as well. I think they've won an Architizer Award in recent history as well, which makes sense. Great work. Yeah, I love how that tells a story about the building from the perspective of its users. How you highlighted all of those different people throughout. I think that really brought the project to life. And both projects so well explained, and the story of each one I think was so kind of clearly laid out, and the imagery was stunning. So thank you so much. Before I move on to questions, just want to remind everybody, if you're interested in following in Foster and Partners footsteps and joining us for the next edition of the A+ Awards, make sure to answer our poll question before you go. We'll get your firm registered so you receive all the information that you need for the coming season. In terms of questions, we got some really great ones. I think maybe we'll go back a little bit to think about the tower in Athens. We had a question about from Joseph about how many different types of units there are in the building, but this was before you showed your diagram about how the units can change in size and be flexible. Another user asked, can you expand on the idea of flexibility and interchangeability in design? I think that was one of the most interesting kind of elements to that project for me. And I'm interested to know kind of what drove that decision. Was this unique to this client, or do you see this kind of almost as a necessity for the future of residential design?
Well, you had me with the response. Thank you, Paul. That's exactly, because as I said, there was a competition. So as we sort of did our presentation, our pitch for the competition, it's something we thought was an important feature of the project. We wanted to bring to the project a new sort of criteria not included in the brief, and we want to have a conversation about how our building obviously designed for the day they be open, but also how we can think about the future transformation of a building all the way through the life of the building itself. And there was a conversation about, family grows, expand, contract, and so how we can create something which is a residential building which does the same. And typically you see that many residential buildings have got a brief which consists of majority as 2-bedroom units. 2-bedroom units, which is very difficult to find in cities, residential towers, which got a majority of 4-bedroom units like we got here. And the idea was, first of all, because we like, families, we like, the idea was, in our sort of mind, this was a building for Athenians, for the 4, big families, but also because we thought if we design that way, there's an opportunity to create bigger units that in the future maybe can be split into smaller units, and it could be expanded, it could be contracted. We created the opportunity almost as in the range of the different studies we did for the apartments. They could go from sort of studio, 1-bedroom, all the way to have an entire floor plan for yourself. And we're being very lucky because the project was very successful, as it was launched. And a lot of the people which sort of approached our client were like, they really like this idea, and really like also the idea of having a very large units, which I think really suits sort of the design and the of creating these outdoor spaces. And so the question is how many different units are in the project. You will say this is almost the only project we have done where every single building is unit is bespoke. It's almost like you don't find many repetition in the project, only a few. And this is not only in terms of the layouts, but also in terms of the finishes that are being proposed. And for us, it's something which is very, very exciting, because we're designing not only sort of the shell and core like sometimes we do, but this is something we will also go into the detail of the interior design itself.
Fascinating. Yeah, I love this idea. I was quite obsessed with the metabolist movement in Japan many years ago. I think this is a much more pragmatic version of that, where you can change interiors rather than entire kind of piece exterior building, like what was proposed back then. Really love that concept. We had a couple of other questions about the tower in sort of broader context. Joseph asked, does the tower block the views of any existing buildings or nearby new construction? And Fred asked, will there be any additional towers in this neighborhood in the future? I think they're kind of related. Wondering kind of how you had to consider the future of this kind of new emerging neighborhood, and how you kind of factor in the existing context and not kind of negatively impacting, I guess, those neighboring buildings.
Absolutely. We've been very lucky because we are both the master planners of the full master plans, but also, we then through the competition got awarded the design of the tower. So the towers, a lot of this project the master plan was launched now probably over 10 years ago, I believe. And so there was a number of towers which have been identified throughout the master plans in different locations. Which the location itself is crucial because obviously you want to have access close to transport to sort of create almost like a TOD. And in terms of sort of blocking the views, as I said this before, used to be the old airport of Athens. Some of you might even have been there before it got closed. And so what we've done is actually being done at the moment is completely remove the landing of the planes, the area where the planes were. Some of the planes will keep on site, some of the hangar are being kept on site because they're considered sort of part of the heritage, but otherwise it's been transformed into a park. So the building closest to our tower is really sitting on the other side of this quite sort of large road, which is called Posidon Road. And I believe sort of the impact in that sense to sort of the neighboring building, existing building, is quite limited. To the west of our project, there's a beautiful beach. And again, the idea of more densities through high-rise buildings, it was exactly for preserving those spaces, which are very well loved by Athenians. And, something which is for us was a sort of a starting point of the design.
Super. And then moving on to the Budapest tower, Diana was curious about the fire protection, especially in these kind of double and triple height space open floors. Obviously, like, it's a very technical subject, and you probably could have a whole nother hour on this for a future webinar. But I just wanted to, if you could touch on how you go about, or how your team goes about thinking about fire protection in a building like this.
Absolutely, that's one fundamental question since the first sketches we do, because of the sort of high-rise building is very sensitive question. So in terms of fire protection, as you can see, so the building is almost like two towers, one next to each other, creating a cluster, and then connected with these bridges. These bridges are actually accessible in case of a fire event, and so they can sort of choose which core and which escape route you can use. The spaces between are open spaces, so they are sort of open, very permeable to the wind, so they're treated literally like outdoor spaces. The cladding next to them is obviously sort of class A non-flammable cladding, and therefore this is pretty much sort of the solution for creating something which is sort of respond to the question. The idea of creating redundancy with two stair cores obviously is something very, very positive in terms of the design. And also all the materials which have been used in the balcony are also fire resistant materials. One thing which is very interesting, since there's quite technical questions, but we don't want to speak for hours about that, is the presence of a green wall. And because the presence of a green wall, plants potentially got to resin, potentially they dry in summer, can therefore become flammable, and therefore sort of the old green wall R&D has been developed to use sort of material, non-textile material, which is again fire resistant, but also got a sprinkler system integrated, which is used in sort of in case of a fire. So quite a bit of work which was done together with engineers, and the engineer. Sometimes in lectures the time must be short, but I really want to give credit to all the people who collaborate. So in the specific case, we work very closely with Burhappold to develop these strategies. But but also we work very closely together with the local engineering teams in Athens, and with also some manufacturer green wool. So as I said, it's a teamwork.
Yeah, I love that early slide that you showed with all of the different specialists. Fantastic image of collaboration in architecture. We're almost out of time, so I just wanted to congratulate you and your whole team and your collaborators on Foster & Partners A+ Award success over many years. But in the most recent season, Foster & Partners won the Best Large Firm Award, which is definitely one of the most prominent awards that we have. I just wondered if you could sort of touch on how winning these awards kind of benefit a firm like yours and help kind of tell your story about your projects.
That's exactly what you said. For us, it's a fantastic opportunity to tell the story, like for example, I've done today, about sort of the story behind our projects, and which is very important because we think the role of architect is also to advocate for the principle and that we believe in. And so sharing the work with sort of the wider architectural community is fundamental. And we really hope that this also stimulates a debate, and sort of hearing the questions, I think is for us always an exciting moment, right? To like sort of interface with the sort of architectural community and get the feedback. So thank you so much for that, Paul.
Absolutely, yeah. It's our pleasure to be able to give firms like yours the stage, and what a wonderful presentation. And I hope that everybody found it as inspiring and informative as I did. Absolutely wonderful. Before we go, everybody make sure that you sign up for tomorrow's talks. It's a talk. It's a day dominated by acronyms. We have REX, then we have HDR, then we have PAU, Practice for Architecture and Urbanism, three powerhouses in the architecture world, and I'm really excited to learn from them and be inspired by their projects too. So I hope that everybody can join me tomorrow. But in the meantime, thank you so much, Nicola, and yeah, hope to chat again soon.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone. See you soon.